I bought a table saw about 2 months ago, and it's now by far the most used tool in my workshop. It took a little bit of time getting used to it, but after a while, making a couple cuts here and there and building a couple projects, I finally got comfortable using it to be able to do whatever I want with it. When you take the table saw out the box, it's not ready to use just yet. There's a few things you have to do just to get it operational to make sure you can get the best cuts possible for your projects. So in this video, I'm going to show you the few things you should do when you get a brand new table saw, just to make sure you have it all set up correctly for your first few projects. And if there's anything I missed that you should do for your table saw, let me know down in the comments and I'll probably make a part 2 to this video. But anyways, this is step number 1 to set up your table saw. We're going to start off by leveling out the base plate of your table saw. Now with the square, if you notice it's starting to catch on this base plate, what you can do is lower down your blade until it gets all the way down. Then you can remove your base plate out just to make sure that there's nothing blocking it. And you can do this by inspecting the base plate just to make sure everything is flush with it. Now you can take out your triangle once again and check to see if anything is still catching on this triangle. And if it's a little bit lower, they actually have some adjustment screws on the side you can adjust them with. So you just have to get a screwdriver, then you adjust the screws just on the corner of the base plate. And then what you do is you move the screws up and down, making sure that you get your base plate as flat as possible. You may have to repeat the step a few times just to get it leveled out. But once you get this base plate all leveled out, the triangle will stop catching, and it's just a rinse and repeat process until it all gets leveled. Now we can bring our blade back all the way up to the top, and then we can see if our blade is actually square to our table. We're going to move the angle gauge all the way to 0 degrees, and then break out the speed square again to see exactly how square our blade is to the table. And my blade is actually not at a perfect 90 degrees. You can tell there's a little bit of light in between the blade and the speed square, so we can adjust this with a knob at the bottom of the table. We're going to use a socket wrench just to move the wheel, just to make sure it's easier to access the knob at the bottom of the table. You can keep the wheel on, but I prefer it's better without it. And then with an Allen wrench, we want to unscrew this bolt, and our wheel we can jam it up all the way to 0, just adjusting in the back of the table saw until we get it at perfect 90 degrees. It's going to be a little trial and error like before, but once we get it perfectly at 90, we can lock in the nut with the Allen wrench and then repeat this exact same process for 45-degree angles. Now checking if your blade is parallel to your fence is pretty simple. All you have to do is measure the distance from one tip of the blade to the other tip of the blade on both sides of the fence. And when that's done, we can actually adjust the little knob on the front, which measures out the scale for the table saw by unscrewing these screws here and adjusting it to make sure you have the right measurement here, just so you have a fast access to see what measurement you're cutting at. Those were some of the first few steps you should do when you're setting up your table saw for your first time, just to make sure you can get the most accurate cuts possible when you first start using your table saw. Here's a clip of me using a table saw for the first time ever, and there was a little bit of difficulty in using it, and I did struggle a little bit using the table saw at first, but then after a while I got the hang of it. Then I did a whole bunch of other cuts with the table saw just to make sure that I was able to cut things properly. Now when you're making your cuts, you want to make sure your blade is just a tooth height above whatever you're cutting. Just make sure the blade's not exposed, and having equal pressure pushing into the fence and then pushing down on it. Just make sure your piece doesn't move. Then push the piece through at an even pace, and then when you get close to the blade, you finish it off with your push stick. And this is how you cut basic cuts with the table saw. But that's going to do it for this quick video on what you should first do when you set up your table saw. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.